Everybody shut up.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every evening at midnight Eastern for about an hour. We talk about guns. We've got people jumping in from all over the country. Let's go east to west. We got Midnight jumping in from Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining. He's muted.
He's just being rude. You didn't call him pancakes. He didn't know you were talking about him.
Yeah. Then we got a Patriot jumping in from Michigan. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
You bet. Then we got, let's see, I guess then comes Clover in Texas.
Yep. Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah.
And then we got Dead Horse up in Utah.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And I'm down here in Arizona. We've got links out to a couple other people that jump in. You're back. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't muted, and I didn't want to mute and have it, playing in the background or whatever. So thanks for having me.
And today's Thursday, so typically on Thursdays we talk training and CCW. So we kind of just leave random topics out there today. I saw a thing back when I was younger on like an outdoor backpacker magazine. It was before the internet, and it had a cool article about first aid, and it suggested if you can't remember the name of your last first aid instructor, then it's time to get instructed to get new training. It's like that's a good idea that it's time, or that's an indication that it's time to get training again. So I don't know. Let me go start it off with, has anybody done any first aid training, and how far have you pursued it, and have you thought about doing more, and if case, in that case, what kind? We won't do left, right, just throw in whatever. Of course, this is an effort in the new media, meaning we put this on an interactive platform. We don't record this and send it out to be distributed. We're doing this so that people that are out there listening can contribute. So what kind of first aid training have you done? Are you interested?
I do basic, basic first aid, and then there's an addendum or whatever you call it to that is outdoor first aid.
Wilderness.
Yeah, they call it outdoor first aid. But yeah, it's just for hunting related stuff, wilderness camping, so different things like that. And then obviously CPR's thrown in there as well. That's as far as I go, and part of the reason, I carry plenty of gear as far as a bag goes, and if I'm out on anything like that, typically speaking, I mean, I've got my wife that is a nurse, is around a lot of times, and lots of medical personnel in the family, lots of medical personnel that I'm friends with, and odds are somebody that's appropriately trained. I don't want to say appropriately trained, but what am I thinking about? College educated or whatever. Odds are somebody that could utilize all of the equipment better than I was going to be. If I've got some basic, I feel like I'm covered.
First aid is not math, right? It's definitely hands-on. It's more mechanics. So a lot of it is just being experienced with it. I think it's one of those things that anybody who's thrust into it is going to figure it out. It's pretty basic. Stop stuff from leaking out of the thing that's alive, and keep it breathing. But once you got most of the basic skills, it's just a matter of having been around it enough, I guess, or experiencing it enough to be comfortable with getting your hands in there and just doing it. And from my experience, hands-on and experiencing other people's first times digging into something that's crazy traumatic, and has massive repercussions and consequences, is everybody rises to the level. It's, we're all rooting for each other. So it's something that, it's all pretty basic. So it can be pretty taunting when you haven't done it, but it's just like riding a bike or something, I guess, to some extent, once you've experienced it. So I'm going to suggest ride-alongs. Has anybody ever done a ride-along in an ambulance?
No.
No.
That's a thing. Mm-hmm. So they might want you to be going to class or school. So you could, if just take some class and then say you're thinking about being an EMT, and that's probably enough. They just want to make sure you're not some kind of Yahoo or weirdo. And an EMT or riding around in an ambulance is it's super fascinating. It's just as fascinating. I don't want to say as much or more, but because I really like doing ride-alongs in police too. But ride-alongs with ambulances are really neat. And for EMT schools, you have to, at least for ours, you had to do that at more than one hospital, or like with ambulances that go to more than one hospital. So super fun. So that's seeing different emergency rooms. You can also do the equivalent of a ride-along in an emergency room. You might need to be going to school for that.
Yeah, I did training a long time ago before I went blind and stuff. But since I went blind, I haven't tried any. I've actually, over the past couple months, I've been looking for some more trauma-based, tourniquets, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of that stuff has changed since I was around it.
Echo is saying you can do ride-alongs with fire departments in their rescue units. All you have to do is ask and fill out the hold harmless form. I never thought about that, but that would be super cool too, going on a ride-along with fire. I mean, they're lazier than cops, but they still do stuff that's interesting, I'm sure. Midnight.
Yep.
You just holding the seat. Training for food service. Out here, we have to do like a health certificate every once in a while. And then I had taken my EMT and then got nationally registered, which means you take a test that means you can go get a job in pretty much most of the states, I think, because you're going to get your EMT training from like anywhere, right? Just like medical training or anything else. You can get it probably from a mail order or online or something, I bet. I don't know, but get your EMT from anywhere and you can pass it, but then you have to pass this national test. Then you're nationally registered, you can go anywhere. I did that and then figured out I didn't want to do that. And then I went into restaurant shit for a minute, and in that I had already done my EMT. So when I did my food service, I thought it was kind of interesting. So out there, do you have more than just one health certificate they have to do for working in a kitchen? And then
No, we you have to be certified in food service sanitation, but not everybody even has to. Only one person on shift at a time has to be certified. It doesn't even have to be a manager technically, but they're certified in safe food handling and all that kind of stuff.
Manager, like just a crew, or do you mean like not a manager, like somebody in the offices and the adjoining office building?
It has to be somebody. Well, I mean, I guess technically I don't know the technical answer for that, but I would imagine that it would have to be somebody in direct contact or direct supervision that could be in direct supervision of the food, but that doesn't have to be a manager. It could be a cook. You know what I mean? If you have like a, that legally that'll cover you. You have to have somebody that's available, I guess, to ask questions or to keep an eye on and make sure that food's being handled safely and, sanitation and stuff like that. It's a little bit weird that it doesn't have to be a man, but I guess that's just how they do it. But yeah, you go into a class and it goes from everything from, it doesn't really have anything to do with like CPR or anything like that. We don't have to do that, but it talks about everything from, you even talk about like bacteria, like the individual, talk about botulism and salmonella and all that kind of stuff. It can be a little tough for some people. It's definitely something that you have to study for. You got to take it. You got to look over your stuff, or you'll fail it pretty miserably. Yeah.
Is ice a food?
Is ice a food? Yes.
Yes, it is. He passed. So, do you think that has anybody else taken the food service type of classes before for any kind of employment or general interest?
Is that ServPro?
ServSafe.
ServSafe.
Well, it might be called. It could be called different stuff. I don't really know. Ours is called ServSafe.
Yeah, I never took it. I had friends take it, and I was always questioning them, doing their bouncing questions off them so they would remember it. But
I had to do one. I had to do one through like the county health department or something here. It was years and years and years ago, and I don't remember any of it. So that's how small and insignificant that it seems. I remember it being a hassle more than anything.
Is that where they tell you temperatures of chicken and different things as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just washing. It's
right.
Oh, no, it's
everything.
Because there's just some things that I guess might not be common sense for people, and then you want to be ultimately careful when you're dealing with something that can harm a lot of people really easily accidentally.
Yeah, a lot of it is a lot of it, like you're talking about things that aren't common sense, is a lot of it is cross contamination and like what they call the temperature danger zone. And that's, people leave food out for a certain amount of time, and that's where bacteria grows the fastest.
Techniques
but there's also
people like do what their grandmas did. It can be crazy, scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people leave stuff out on the counter and stuff like that. That's another good one. There's also they do talk about the amount of time that food can sit out on like a buffet and stuff like that. It's like that's a thing that people don't really think about in the general public. After you can put food out for I think 2 hours, and then you're allowed to reheat it if you would want to, or if you would have to, you could reheat it up to like 165 and then put it back out for another 2 hours. But if you leave it out for more than 2 hours, you're not allowed to reheat it. It's done after it's done after that time. So, stuff like that. So, it's definitely important stuff. And it also helps you when you're talking to guests too that might be having parties, and people sometimes want to take leftovers home from a buffet and stuff like that, and that's really not a legal thing to do. It's not really a good idea, because that food's technically, as a business owner, you give something like that to somebody, they put it in the backseat of their car, they drive an hour home, they don't hold it at the correct temperature, they put it in their fridge and then try and eat it the next day and get sick. They're going to be thinking it's your fault, So you kind of covering your butt on some of the stuff too. Right. That kind of overall insight lets you know what kind of practices not to do, because like you say, then it can look like something happened or actually it did happen, but it was, not intentionally, but consequence of it. Yeah. All right. So, I guess I was leading up to that to say, what do y'all think? We all eat at restaurants, so it's, it doesn't matter what side of the house you're from. Do you think that service people, I don't want to say should, because that's lame, but do you think that there should be, or that there could be an option for like an increased rate of pay or some sort of a bonus or some sort of a perk for having emergency training as a service person, CPR or more? I think it's a great idea. Like a tax perk, or maybe I don't know, some kind of an extra day off once in a while paid by the government. Somehow a perk so that there's perk paid by the employer so that they have more confident employees for their customers. Right. Well, there is something that sort of mimics that a little bit, and that's a program called TIPS, and it's for servers and bartenders, and it's a training program that helps them. You say TIPS? What's that? TIPS. Yeah. TIPS It's helped too. This is a family show. Geez. And what it is it's a program that trains servers and bartenders to recognize people that are intoxicated, so they don't overserve. And if you go through that program, you have enough of your staff go through that program. I think it actually helps it can help your insurance as a business owner, your liability insurance, because you're not, it shows that you're trying to, not overserve and not have your patrons in danger of, whatever, if they're drunk. So, but I don't think there's anything like that for. We did have a server on staff that was an EMT for a while. That was actually really nice. That was kind of cool to know. I don't think we have anybody now, and it is probably something that I don't know if it should be required, but would be a pretty cool thing to sort of mandate as a business owner, that, you have somebody around that can handle some of the, first, can be like the, I guess, first responder, I guess, or something like that, in case something happens, because a lot of crazy stuff happens in restaurants and bars and nightclubs, man. It's a nut house.
What do you guys think about the same question, since you won't answer since you all refuse to answer that question? What do you think of the same question applied to shooting ranges and gun shops?
I think it would be a bonus. I mean, I know if I was an owner and I owned a range, I think that would be something you could set up. I mean, just like you said, give them a day off or something if they take the training, and I don't know if you'd advertise. I mean, that'd probably be a benefit to advertise it as well.
Well, yeah,
I'd be like,
I think so.
All our crew is trained medical person. I think that'd just be cool, no matter what your job. As long as any kind of service industry, right? Even if it's a store selling shoes, that would be a benefit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And as an employee, I mean, it's pretty cool to, honestly. I mean, I'm getting a little older now, but like when I was younger, if they say, "Hey, we're going to give you 2 paid days to go do a class," and that's pretty cool. If you're in your your early 20s or whatever, like, cool, couple days off and I get paid for it and I get some really cool knowledge. Can't beat that.
Anybody considering putting basically emergency medicine into their budget for both time and money?
Are you talking about as a business, medicine for a business?
No. For real life, like as accompanying your CCW, whatever CCW training you've got. We've got aspects of CCW training, right? Like there's actual marksmanship, and there's like the mindset tactics type of, strategy of an actual gunfight. You can learn all different kinds of levels there. And then there's your legal training and knowledge and stuff, and all kinds of different ways. So the medical training, is that something that anybody's considering, or
I've actually been searching. I believe it was one of your chats a month or so ago about doing or it might have been even Sarge or somebody talking about it. And I was looking at the Homeland Security. Supposedly they put out training, and I called. I posted it on gun channels that I'd called my local gun shops. I called the fire department. I called the police department. I called 2 different ambulance services, and I called the Department of Homeland Security all in one day. And I didn't get any answers, but I'm sure I'm on some list now. But I was trying to find, trauma training, even the local ambulance service, they're trying to push me around and get me to one of their trainers or somebody they actually have, put out courses and stuff. But I never got a response from either place. So, but I'm still looking.
That sucks.
Yeah, I got the community college and stuff. I'm sure they've got to have something. Everybody's directing you to the Red Cross, and I called the Red Cross, and they says, "Well, we don't have that." The lady I spoke with, we don't have that training, but we do sell the equipment to take that kind of training. Where you can buy a kit, a trauma kit, and so that's basically all I got from the lady I spoke with. Um, but she didn't have any direction as far as where to actually go, for, I not EMT. I don't want all the extra stuff. It was just, like stop the blood or whatever they call that course, where it's just for, trauma training. But I don't know if that's a normal thing or if people that go for the trauma training is actually going for, a lot more in depth stuff, like like with the ride arounds and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
That's a lot of dead air, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me. I was like shaking my phone. So sorry.
Nope, just got dead air. So training's falling flat. So that's what happens usually. Most people aren't that interested in it. And let's see, we've got some chatter happening. I'm out here. DB Cooper's out there. Let's see what his theory is on training right now. Some community, general relativity saying some community colleges offer EMT courses, and you can take them for significantly less, if not for credit certification. Well, I never thought about that. That's how I took mine. I needed the credits to do things at school, and that was enough credits to blow past a level or whatever, and it worked for my science or something that I needed. So, and it was super interesting to me. So I took that class, and without really intending to do it as a career, and I kind of thought about it. I never really intended to, but I never thought about doing it without the accreditation and stuff. I mean, you can certainly not take the test I was talking about, and that saves you some money. But
So
if you
just
did,
basically going in and saying that you want to take the course just to learn the stuff, but you're not taking it
yeah,
for.
I'm not sure if they would let you. That's the thing. Maybe if you were already an EMT and you wanted to get a refresher, they might. But thing is, there's certain things I think liability wise that they might have an issue with. Like, I'm going to show you how to do all these weird things and give you the like techniques to portray yourself as a trained person. That might.
I know that totally separate off of the medical thing, but I know that the gunsmithing, there's 3 different certification levels. There's a college, I don't know, about an hour away from here, a little community college that does a pretty decent gunsmithing course. By all accounts, I haven't had the opportunity to take it, but and I know that once you've gone through that, you have to go through all 3 levels. That you can actually go. They allow you to come back and retake it at any time at actually no charge.
That makes sense.
Oh,
But as a refresher, I could see him wanting you to be current, right? Or
And a lot of people I know that have taken it, because the whole process, you build a custom rifle through that process, and a lot of people go back just to use the equipment to build you know what I'm saying, to build another custom rifle.
I just wonder if you could go to a professor or something and say, okay, I'd like to do this a la carte. I just want, this and this kind of thing. I don't need I don't trick you out of me and all that other
yeah. So most
or
of
advanced stuff.
most of the, at least if I'm trying to remember now, but most of the EMT stuff was like one prerequisite class, which was like a semester, and then a whole bunch of stuff that all required that first prerequisite class. So it was structured in a way that you weren't really going to just take an EMT course out of the curriculum as an elective. They pretty much kept to ourselves, and classes were small and stuff. But once you got in there, you could decide to go this way or that way a little bit, because some people that are going to like paramedic or nurse might want to do something a little different than someone who's going wilderness EMT. which they might be doing towards being a fireman or a cop or something, and just getting some credential, towards a different type occupation. But I don't know. That's a good question. And you might be able to. Well, a lot of the EMT classes are taught by fire people, like firemen. So fire people.
I even called the fire department.
I was going to say do a ride along, and then if you get, be friends with some firemen, then you might be able to sit in on a class if you're really just looking for knowledge. Because most of the time EMT classes are pretty small. I mean, unless maybe you're in a big town or something. But basically, those classes are all pretty tiny.
I'm definitely going to look into it.
So going back to gunsmithing, if you were going to counsel a youngin' today, when do kids start worrying about college? Junior year? Sophomore, junior?
Completely depends on the child. My youngest one was pretty much locked in and dedicated, knew where she was going to go, what she was going to do summer between 8th grade and high school. And then she knew pretty much exactly what she had to do throughout her high school career to make it happen.
Because you only gave her one option, she's going to be a lawyer?
No. But yeah, she had her college picked out according to her studies, and then, it was one of the best rated, and then the job rate upon graduation there, she had looked into all of that. She did all this homework herself. I don't think most kids are that way. I think most of the kids that are prepared enough to not fall off a track are probably that way. But yeah, most it's probably maybe sophomore year, junior year. I would say the vast majority probably start junior year. Thinking about it.
Okay, so a young Flippy or a young Zorro comes up to you and asks, should I go into the gun industry? What are you going to counsel that young, pliable mind, that young person?
I think so. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a couple things. Okay, let's look at this from, the same way if they were a fantabulous football player through their high school career and then got taken into college and whatever, and you got to look at alternatives, right? Because anything can happen in whatever career that you might choose. Anything can happen, and so you got to look at the possibility of alternatives with that. And one thing with gunsmithing that is an alternative is machine work. And regardless of what you're turning or fashioning or building or whatever, the operation of the machining tools and stuff like that, I think is a marketable skill in various other careers. So I think that with very little learning curve, that would translate over. And the reason I say that is the best gunsmith that I know is not the best gunsmith because of his knowledge necessarily on firearms. It's his skill with machining. He could literally run his machines and duplicate and make parts and fit parts and things like that. It's just amazing some of the stuff he can do.
Yeah, definitely running a mill or a CNC or whatever. I mean, that also following along with like the mechanical drafting. I'm sure they don't just do it from memory. You got to be able to read prints and measurements, all that stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, so you guys so far we got 2 yeses to a youth to go into the gun industry, and you both sent them towards engineering / well, not so much engineering, but machinery, machinist. Being a machinist, I'm just going to assume you also meant engineering.
Yeah.
Whoever gets programmed into that machine.
Well, yeah, that plays into it some, sure.
So,
or if they're an artist,
I mean, I guess there's definitely fewer machinists or fewer engineers than there are machinists, designer engineers. But we won't even get into the fact that you're just describing two occupations that are almost exclusively male. So you're probably not trying to be sexist, but you're sexist. No, but you went both to machining. What about all the other aspects of the firearms industry?
Well,
And
I was just highlighting, as it directly relates to, gunsmithing. I was just highlighting one that I think is a rarer, or I guess a rarer skill to have is, how to operate all of that machinery.
And also, you picked two little, Zorro and Flippies. So
Right.
if you would have said a little, Angelina or something, but artistic wise, there's making stocks, there's design work, there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, we don't like sticking around with all the same old boring stuff. So if they're artistic and they're good at form and design, or working with their hands, making, carving stuff, wood wise, or even clay. I mean, you don't drive a car before it's made out of clay, so there's a lot of different design aspects that, and, let alone the fun of being an instructor or something.
And for Angelina, there's always the gun bunny and the booth babe. No, wait, I thought I was on mute. I'm sorry. I didn't say that.
Oh boy.
That's a touchy subject with pancakes. He's after my bunny in the AK.
No.
That patch, yeah.
You gotta get G to do more of those for AK Pro.
Right.
That's my favorite. That's the coolest patch.
So
Oh,
G,
yeah.
what other facets of the industry were you thinking?
I mean, there's a lot, right? Everything from where do you want to go? I mean, you guys kind of went from the beginning, so I guess you've got your something before engineering would be, feet on the ground, hands on the triggers, type of jobs where people figure out what needs to be made next, like what's lacking, what roles are not being filled or something. So there's that kind of job, of course.
Like a R&D.
Oh no, I meant like being a cop or a military guy or just a
okay.
shooter or an enthusiastic person in the just a participant in some sort of anything. Somebody who demands the innovation take place. And then you guys were talking about like the engineers and the machinists who create the new thing or that make the things. But then of course there's the distribution and the marketing and then the actual sales and then the ranges that they shoot those things at. They shoot ammunition, and then there's all the different other adjacent industries that pop up,
Right.
To support it. And then I don't know, the Second Amendment advocacy thing. There's a couple of, I don't know, if you guys weren't at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, it might have been tough, especially with my like rogue podcast just in the back with audio. But there's quite a few youngins in the advocacy movements, gun advocacy movements of various types. So that's a potential, and they can be funded. There's gun owners' rights groups that are funding the whatever her name is in Texas, who's driving all around doing the thousands of miles of driving in Texas, boots on the ground, getting people active at the community level. So, I mean, that's literally a career. Then there's, of course, lobbyists and that kind of thing that has to be done. So I'm thinking there's all kinds of potential, but oftentimes when we have these live discussions and we're not, focused, we're just chatting, people are pretty pessimistic and, talk about how, especially if we're talking industry stuff, we'll talk about how pessimistic and companies are sucking and the products are weak and, going out of business and laying off people. So is it bad advice to say go into the 2A industry to the youths? And Ghost has a link. You should be sleeping.
I'd be curious to see, because I really don't know what the pay is in certain jobs in the industry. I mean, restaurants and stuff, it varies from town to town, huge, a lot. I'm sure it does with every other industry too. Like guns wouldn't be different. I mean, the guy that does one job in Texas isn't going to make the same amount at that job in Oklahoma, probably, or
I've seen some
you know,
information
Pennsylvania.
I've seen some stuff from the NSSF. The gun industry, you know, the low end, like Ellis, somebody's working at like a local gun shop level is probably making 175,000 a year. So, you know, it's not very much. Not like
And all the free guns they can carry twice a week, right?
Wow.
Yeah, the point.
I think the average median income for my area of the country is like 12 grand. Something.
I was just trying to make him feel bad with his pancaking over there.
Yeah.
You got to flip faster, man.
But I know we looked at one time. I know we looked at a fairly prestigious, it seemed like, gunsmithing school that, and it was on a Daily Gun Show quite some time ago. So I can't even recall.
Is that in Colorado?
Even remotely. Seemed like maybe it was in Arizona, but I don't remember exactly. But anyway,
Dragon Man.
We kind of went through the curriculum and stuff on that, and there was all kinds of, you know, business plans and all kind of weird stuff like that you wouldn't necessarily think would relate to gunsmithing, but in the grand scheme of things, if you were going to try to open your own business or something like that, it certainly plays a big role. But that could also come in handy for, you know, a job skill working for somebody.
You're saying like
in a totally different industry.
You're saying like the basics of like just running a business basics. You can't just, even in the gun industry, you have to know the basics of running a business stuff. You're saying.
Sort of, yeah. So that could translate into some other, like I said, field or industry potentially. At least get your foot in the door.
Have you guys? This is just a question. I don't know if there's any way to even know. I mean, I don't. I'm trying to think now that I'm even asking it. Do you think that people get into the gun industry and then go into other industries, or that people get in the gun industry and they found a home and they're done? Unlike, you know, like some people will be a plumber and get sick of it, and then they're a tennis pro or something, and then they get sick of it and they're installing color TV or satellite TVs or something.
Most I have experience with stay in it. People I know, people that I know anyway. They've stayed with. They've moved around. You know, moved up, moved down. You know, in a sense of they wanted more free time or, you know, more time off or whatever the case may be. They've moved up and down the ladder, so to speak. But most have stayed with it in some way.
Yeah, I think it's got such a wide variety of things in the firearm industry that, you know, I believe they would stay in it, but, you know, you could go from, you know, sales in one part to, you know, being an outfitter in Montana, you know, working for yourself and not have to, you know, so I mean, stress wise and whatever, I'm sure there's a lot of lateral things that are, you know, crazy as far as, you know, the differences between them. So I don't think, you know, especially if they enjoy it and it's a passion and it's not just, oh, this is just what I got stuck doing. I think they would stick with it. They would just, you know, possibly, you know, grow with it, go more to the advocate side and whatever. You know, there's a lot of movement, I'm sure. As long as they're passionate about it and it's not just, oh, this is just the job that, you know, my dad made me go do or something.
And I think it's easy. I think with the multiple facets that are in the firearm industry, I think it's real easy to become and stay passionate about it, because it's a never boring situation. You can always look at things and from various perspectives, from the self-defense, the competition, the hunting, you know, whatever the what am I thinking? Oh, heck, the advocacy, Second Amendment advocacy, you know, angle. There's just so many ways you can come at different things and different projects and different careers.
Lasers on sharks.
There you go.
You know,
renewable ammunition. That's the next new thing.
I mean, that goes with any industry. I mean, if you're a race car driver, you know, when you're 90 years old, you might want to do something a little different. But, you know, if that's what you like, you're gonna collect or tell young people what to do.
Well, and a lot of those go from driving, or they go from, a lot of them
Owning.
go from, pit crew to maybe mechanic to driving to, owning to company man to, they really
run schools and.
Right.
Well, I guess too, like as I'm thinking about it, the firearms industry doesn't even necessarily have to be like a business or a store or something. Like there's a lot of people that do it on a personal level where they hit estate sales and they buy and trade and sell and do all that kind of stuff just on their own too. So I mean, you could kind of be your own little firearms industry nowadays. I mean, there's laws and everything, and play by the rules, but people do it as a hobby, but sometimes you can make, I'm sure, good money doing it.
Yeah, I'm still leaning towards outfitter. I think that's a good job. I might try for that.
Yeah, that can be fun. Get to meet a lot of new people. We get a lot of interesting stories.
I mean, because you could do it firearms and, fishing. I mean, it depends on the location. I mean, there's so much.
Right. Yep.
I mean,
the travel is cool. I know I've got a couple of people that I know in that sector of it, and it's an interesting thing. It's honestly, it's more of a young man's game. I say young man's game. It's not really a family man's game, because depending on what aspect of it you're in. Let me back up. Depends on what aspect of it you're in, but you're away from home a lot with that stuff.
Unless you move to Texas and buy a helicopter to go shoot hogs.
Well, but then how does that help if you're doing a multifaceted game and somebody wants to hunt, goats or something, you're, there you go. You're off to some other place. I guess you can use your helicopter to get there, I suppose. Still a need for it.
Helicopters aren't challenging enough anymore, so I'll take an airplane and
hot air balloon.
No, then I'll jump out with a parachute and then hunt on the way down in the parachute.
I say that they take a biplane and they strap you to the wing.
Old school styly.
And they just circle and you've got to shoot them.
Or you get one of those little bat suits that you just skydive in your wingsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Like a big flying squirrel.
Drop
a squirrel with a Glock, and you're just flying down and take out targets on the.
Except that every time you went to shoulder the rifle, you'd start to fall, just straight fall. You'd have to shoot really fast and then start gliding again.
They're so bad here that this is, it's I'm making fun of some of the methods, of course, but there's so many here. I could certainly see this being done. Put up a zip line and then bait them in, and then just fly down the zip line as you shoot them.
Yeah, there might be some kickback at some of them kind of ideas, though.
What about what do they call that? What's that chair where you sit on that bench and there's ropes and it takes you to the top of the mountain to go skiing?
Yeah, that's a ski lift, isn't it?
Yeah. Take one of them just across some area, put a bunch of salt licks under it.
Right.
All right. So Seven Wonders on the YouTube side is saying, please ask the panel. Now, there's no question mark here, so I don't know what ask the panel part of it, but we'll figure it out. I've been considering starting a one-on-one intro to pistols class for scared newbies who are interested in guns but are too insecure to take the plunge. For folks who are hesitant to take a formal class with a bunch of other people. So is he asking if he should, or I'm not sure what the question part is.
It sounds like it sounds like he wants to start his own little class, right?
Yeah, but a one-on-one.
I said go for it.
Now, do you need any kind of? Oh, sorry, Chloe.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on a couple things with that. First of all, the one-on-one, I get the premise, The idea, I think, is awesome. I think the application is going to require some thought, and depending on where you live and the state and the city and the range you're working with or whatever it might be, I think there's some logistical information there that's going to be hard to figure out exactly how to pull that off in a way that's not going to set you up for liability issues and stuff like that. That said, the one problem I'm seeing with that is if you're talking about doing this as a semi sort of charitable thing to just help people out, then that's one thing. I don't know. We were kind of talking careers there for a little while. And being one-on-one, there's a reason these instructors have multiple people in their classes, is to make it worth their time to spend with them. So it's doubtful anybody that's going to be so scared of guns and, that hesitant or anything like that is going to spend big bukus of money to get introduced to something that they're scared about, if that makes any sense. It's almost like it's a catch-22 situation to me. So definitely requires some thought.
That means is there anything out there? So I don't know how ambitious you are, but if you want to become an NRA instructor, I forget what the levels are because I did. To be efficient, you do stuff all at once. If you're with NRA instruction, there's a lot of steps, but you can be efficient. And if your goal is to get, like ours, to get to be a CCW instructor for the state of Arizona, we wanted to get, or I don't know if we needed or if we just decided to get whatever it was, personal protection outside the home. And for an NRA, I think it was, you have to be an NRA basic pistol instructor, then you have to be a personal protection inside the home instructor, which is a second class, and then a third class, personal protection outside the home. So one of them is like an introduction to pistols, and teaching that to be an instructor, you're taking an NRA class that, teaches you how to be an instructor. And then you teach a class, you learn how to be an instructor on a class that teaches people how to use guns defensively, kind of period. But like, it's called inside the home because there's no tactics at all to it. It's just using a gun defensively. Very little law even, if I remember right. And then you do a third class, you learn how to teach personal protection outside the home. And then it's like more involved, kind of like a CCW class. But if your goal was to get to that third level of NRA instruction or whatever, that third qualification or all three qualifications, you don't need to take them all in order. You can kind of stack them. So to be efficient, we were taking quite a bit of stuff that weekend. I explain that because it took us a weekend to accomplish all three of those classes. And it was one of the most dull weekends ever because it's very, very, very basic. And you're teaching people how to learn at like a 6th grade level. So it's really, really basic stuff for a long time. And it's interesting, but it's difficult to deal with. I'm sure Clover has stories about that. But then when you're done with that, you can offer what they call NRA. It's not even basic pistol. It's just an NRA handgun class thingy that they offer. And like the handouts are like $10 or less, maybe $5 for a little booklet. As an NRA instructor, you have access to their manuals and their educational, like brochures and whatever, pamphlets and things. So you can just order these basic handgun little things, and they're meant to be literally like a 5-minute discussion at the gun shop across the table or across the counter with someone who's never touched a gun before. After that, like 5 or 10 minutes, they're comfortable with how it operates, how to take it apart and clean it, and then how to eventually get to the range and shoot it. It's not like a full pistol class or nothing, but it's the basics. So it sounds like that's what you're looking for, is that class. I wouldn't try to use the NRA course materials because they get all antsy about it, like anyone would if they're producing course materials and offering it to their people. Are you saying that you don't think you're going to be taking all that? Let's see.
That's kind of what I had said out there was, I would think that in order to have some legitimacy, I would think that you would at least probably need the basic pistol. You would need something, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You could probably take an instructor class.
Yeah, something, right?
Or just the basic pistol, though. But the thing is, if you, let's say, that's why I explained all that. If you were going to take NRA basic pistol, it's probably like 9 hours a class, seriously, because you're going to get a credential from the NRA that is legitimate across the whole country. There's a reason the NRA training is as solid and as like foundational as it is, because it's freaking foundational. So they want to make sure you know what you're talking about, and they train you thoroughly. I mean, there was people that walked in there that never taught anything before, and they walked out able to teach a class with this kind of, necessity to like safety and everything, like with this kind of seriousness. Like they do a really good job of training you, but it's super long. Now, if you're going to take 9 hours to be NRA certified in basic pistol, it might be like 10 hours to be certified in inside the home, and it might be 11 hours to be certified in outside the home. So in other words, you're going to take 8 hours of class. It might be the difference between 8 hours and 11 hours, and now you're certified in 2 levels higher of NRA certification. And that's why I explained all that, because if you're going to take 8 hours, just make sure that that there's not an opportunity to just like stay an extra hour and then have 2 certs out of the thing, out of the effort.
Right. Make sure you can't stack. Yeah.
I have a question. So, I mean, we've all pretty much, taken like a buddy to the range or something like that that's never shot before. You take a friend to the range, you shoot a little bit, you kind of show them the ropes, whatever. I feel like that's a lot. You chewing on your mic? I feel like that's a lot different than sort of promoting yourself as a trainer or something. If something would go wrong with somebody, even if it's not with you at that moment, but like afterwards, say they're on their own for the first time at the range and they have an accident and they get injured, they're going to want to possibly point the finger at you as a trainer, right? I mean, where are you as far as legal standpoints when if you would start calling your business a training business or something without having any kind of credentials? Could you do that? Or is that worrisome?
You would on a situation to where you were just with a buddy or just somebody else at the range, and you're like, hey, proper form is this or this, and try this, right, or rack the slide this way or something. That's no different than being in the hardware store and going, oh man, this is the most awesome hammer ever. This is the one I use for contracting. And then they go out roofing and they break their thumb and decide they're going to sue you because you recommended a hammer. That it's right. There's some protections there in that. That's just people talking, and but if you're putting it out in a light that, especially if somebody's paying you for that instruction, right, then I'm not saying that I'm not saying, first of all, that the odds of that happening, I don't know that they're super great. And then I don't know that they could get, if you're teaching properly and you haven't, especially if you design an established curriculum for that, then I think you're going to be covered as far as civil liability and stuff like that. But yeah, having some type of a credentialed background is going to help. And with that credential background, it's going to be easier and cheaper to get some type of a general liability insurance that could help, because let's say somebody just makes a crazy frivolous claim and you get a crap judge or something, right? Well, at least you've got insurance you can fall back on at that point.
Yeah.
And
we're overthinking it a lot. I think this is he's trying to inform people that are just getting curious or whatever. He's not taking people to a tactical training class. So if they're going to try to sue him for, well, this guy showed me, how a gun works, and then I got into a gunfight and I didn't know how to get out. Like, no judge is going to say like, yep, this is the guy. That's like saying my friend showed me how his stick shift worked and I got a flat tire. I got a drunk driver hit me, like,
yeah. Look at karate, like self-defense studios and stuff. Like how many people have still gotten robbed and mugged and all that. And I wonder how many have sued their self-defense place, right? Their karate dojo or whatever. Like, I don't think that's really a thing.
For my introductory, like, free class, and I still got mugged. But anyway, but the thing is, like what Clover touched on with the curriculum, that's the nice thing about the NRA thing. And you might even be able to start out by doing the range training thing.
Safety officer. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say safety officers is really cheap and it's really, really fast to take, and that gets you access to their stuff. But that's a shortcut. So I would say maybe work with another NRA instructor. And the other thing is do a little bit of marketing first. I wouldn't go invest in NRA. I think it was like $500 to get the NRA. So it might have been like $400 because you're taking 8 hours of their time, and that's why I was talking about stacking them. Because if you're going to be there for 8 hours, you're still going to pay like $400 to get basic pistol, and it was probably like $500 to get personal protection inside and outside the home, because it was only like a couple extra hours and like a different range thing or two. But anyhow, so if you're going to do all that, maybe test the waters first. Make sure that there's people interested, because you might be able to just arrange something with somebody who's already an NRA instructor, and you could just do the work of like setting it up, like finding the people, getting them together, and then bringing that person over, and then you don't need to necessarily go get instructed. Now, if it becomes like 50 people show up and he's like, I need help, then go get some training and help them out.
Almost like a lead generator is what you're getting at.
Yeah. In other words, you don't have to do the whole thing yourself. If you want to be active and be part of it, then don't try to take on the training. Just find a trainer also. You're going to look for students, go look for an instructor too, and just be the coordinator of it all.
I was just going to say with what Clover had said about the, how many new people that might be scared and want to get into it are going to dump a lot of money into training. You could also market that as to other people that are already shooters that have, spouses or whatever, that, it's not good that they take to train their spouses or whatever. So you can actually, you can market it to helping out that way, Then it's, you're pulling from people that, hey, this is going to benefit me if my wife starts shooting, or my loser boyfriend starts shooting, and starts whatever. So yeah,
I mean, there's definitely people out there that I think would take advantage of it. I was watching a thing not long ago, and it was they had an indoor gun range, and they were pulling people off the street that were anti-gun or afraid of guns, or whatever, didn't like guns for some reason or another, and bringing them in and giving them the opportunity to shoot. And it was cool because everybody seemed to have a good time. There was a couple, and then there was a woman and a guy, and the couple really enjoyed shooting, but said that they didn't think they would ever buy a gun. The woman really enjoyed it and said that she thinks she would like to do it again. But the guy was really interesting because he had never shot before. He was a black gentleman and lived in a city, and had bought a gun because he felt like he wanted to buy a gun for protection. But literally, he said he put it in I don't think he even ever loaded it. It was like still in the original box in the drawer. And he was kind of afraid he didn't know what to do with it. He'd never shot a gun before. He was really apprehensive about it, and he was kind of scared of it and didn't know what to do. So he just randomly got, asked by these people to go in and shoot one time, and he loved it. And he was like, oh, this is so great. I'm so glad this happened. He's like, now I feel like I can go home and, I can, start to learn how to, shoot and learn my weapon, learn the gun, whatever. So that was a pretty interesting thing because it was so random, but it was such a cool thing to see happen, because this guy was literally scared to, like he even said, he was like, oh, I was really afraid. I didn't know what to do. I was just so scared of the gun. And that kind of gave him a chance to, get a head start on it. It's kind of what he's talking about. I actually wanted to bring that up on the show the other week. It was pretty cool. And there's a few of those things out there. There's lots. There's videos on YouTube, all over YouTube, about, liberals shooting guns and all that kind of stuff. But this one was really different than any of the ones I've seen before because of that one dude. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, wasn't he the one that said he was actually thinking about bringing the pistol back in the case to the gun shop or something?
Maybe, I
I'd
don't
seen
know.
one that was like that, but
It's
okay.
been a while since I saw it. Yeah, and I mean, I could describe the guy to you, but that it was probably wouldn't do you any good. I was just about to start describing the guy, but um, but it was neat because he was like, you could tell, he was like literally like kind of thankful that this happened because he was like, yeah, like you said, if that's the same one you saw, yeah, he didn't want anything to do with it. He bought it and he's like, oh shit, now what do I do with this thing? So Seven Wonders is kind of talking about being the guy that can maybe be that stepping stone from, I think I need a gun and I kind of want to buy one, but I got nobody to show me what to do. I mean, I grew up, lots of us grew up, 5, 8 years old shooting our first gun. And it just becomes like a thing where you're like, we would go up to camp and that's it. I would go into camp. I would go into the cabinet, get my 22, grab like 2 or 3 boxes of, rounds, 22 long rifle, and I'd just go through the woods and shoot, or I'd set up stuff out in the yard and shoot. And it was just, it wasn't anything weird. It was just how it was. But not a lot of people are like that. And sometimes, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to ask stupid questions, especially with firearms, because there's such a can be, I'm sure it can be like really imposing for people. I mean, it happens to a lot of, I don't say a lot of us, but it happens with me too. Like if I'm somewhere like, if I don't know something, like sometimes you're afraid to ask because you don't want people to think you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or you're a newbie or something. And that's what's so nice about these chats is it promotes people being open and just sort of asking anything, because it's kind of a little, it's our little gun guy safe space, I guess. I don't know. I thought that was,
and then it turns into safe spaces in here.
Yep, I turned it into a safe space, but it's a good safe space. It's a gun safe space where you're allowed to ask any kind of gun question without feeling bad about it.
All right. Well, it's been pretty slow on the gun channel side tonight. Not sure why. A bunch of people had links over there. They weren't taking us up on them, and our activity on the YouTube side tonight. 7 people over there stole the show, so I guess that's okay. You bet. Thanks for the questions. 2 Seven Wonders out there, and remember, there's like, if Ghost was here, he'd say turn on a camera, because you can do a lot with a video. You can reach a lot more people with a video. People are, there's some number of people who are interested, and then there's some number of people who will actually follow through and go to a range with some amount of prodding. And somewhere in between there is the number of people that'll experience it for the first time watching a video. A video you can pull out your phone, turn on a TV at a party or something, and show people. You can have multiple videos to address or talk to different types of people in different ways. So thinking of using the multimedia and the methods that we've got to post info, and then 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that video or whatever it is that you've got out there is cooking, and it's available for people. And every minute that it's on the internet, it's growing in time on the internet, so it's getting more and more, what's the word I'm looking for, more time on the clock, which makes it more appealing to searches and stuff. So even if you're gonna be taking people to the range ultimately in person, that online stuff can supplement it. So I highly encourage you to consider doing some stuff online and putting your curriculum or your stuff up there as a way to get people interested, and then also, again, so that it's out there.
What's nice about the online thing too is it can be sort of anonymous for people. So if you are sort of apprehensive about, say again?
No obligation too. They don't have to spend any time or any effort other than watching. They can pause in the middle. They can close the laptop if their spouse comes in who hates guns or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, that and you know, I mean, when you're on, if you're online too, you can really take some.
It's just porn.
You can really take some time to ask the question the way that you want to, and not just, you know, be nervous about talking to somebody face to face about something if you're a little apprehensive or nervous. You know, you can take some time, take a couple of minutes, think about how you want to word that question, put that question in the comment section, and, you know, start a conversation, and not be so weird about it.
And your point of view can be totally different. I mean, I never thought of doing videos, you know, too.
Mm-hmm.
Now they can't get rid of me.
Kind of like a weed.
Yeah, weed, or I was thinking a bug, but yeah, pretty close. But, you know, it's I don't know. I enjoy it. You know, 2 years ago, I would have never thought I'd been, you know, talking with these guys for sure.
No, yeah, me either. I mean, I don't, you know, the same way. I mean, yeah. Well, most people, I think, I think one of the things that the biggest problem is most people think like, well, who the hell's going to want to listen to me, or who's going to want to talk to me, or who's going to care about my opinion? And then you get on and you're like, a lot of people do, because a lot of people are in the same boat that you are, and, you know, and that's cool.
There's something years ago, there's no way I would have suggested I would have been sitting around talking to Marines, but
yeah, you know, what you gonna do? But that's I tell my daughter that, where she sits in class, if she's got a question, I'd say you got to ask, because, you know, and she's a kid, of course she's gonna say, you know, I don't want to ask, I don't want to look stupid, but knowing full well half the kids in the class have that same question. So
yeah.
I mean, that's
good point.
That's cliche. Everybody says that, but it's a reason it's cliche is because it's true.
So Yoder on the YouTube site is telling Seven Wonders, someone may have already mentioned this, but get credentials to hold concealed carry classes. You'll get lots of people coming to the class that you can talk to about your pet project. I'll just throw in there, just go hang out at CCW classes. We've talked about auditing a training class before, but sitting in on the CCW class is ultimately easy. You don't even have to be creating content online. Anybody can sit on a CCW class almost always, and almost always for free. So that's a great idea. Go into a concealed carry class, you're going to get a lot of like-minded folks, but coming from all over the spectrum. And there's definitely time at a CCW class that there's, like, you know, breaks and things, but definitely when they're shooting, you know, everybody's just sitting around waiting for their time up at the line. So there probably could be potentially a lot of time to pick people's brains. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's that place that I was at last week, 717 Armory, does classes, and I've invited him on the show just to be a guest on the show and talk about his business and whatnot. But I'm thinking maybe I've never taken a class, so I'm thinking that might be either go over there and you know, kind of feature it on the show a little bit and sort of get a little bit of the class, or actually take it. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten that far yet, but it's pretty neat.
And it's just saying that it's not a gun-free safe space. It's a free gun safe space.
A gun safe space. There you go. It's hard to say.
No. A free gun safe space.
Free. Ooh, so what kind of guns do we get? What do I get?
They're free. So there'll just be like a cabinet of them. Probably one of those like wooden cabinets with the glass doors. So as you're, you know, if there's any kind of line, you can be kind of already get an idea of which one you want. And then pretty much maybe, you know, to be Flippy and Bob probably running it. So, you know, whenever one model or make or whatever gets low, Bob will have to go in back and get another one. So there'll probably be a little bit of delay here and there maybe. But, you know, he'll have a selection of maybe, I don't know, 12. How many fit in one of those cases? 12 or 18 rifles maybe?
I would imagine Bob would get sidetracked pretty quickly, too.
I figure because we don't know what age people are coming in, we'll probably just do all long guns as far as the free guns. Mainly just because, you know, if it's an 18-year-old or something, we don't have to worry about it. Here's a free long gun.
Well, if you got any Winchester 94s laying around, I could use one of those. I want one of those. They're little, too. I mean, they're not that big, so they don't take up much space.
Yeah, thanks, State Seven Wonders. That's what I would hope things are all about, is being able to have an actual conversation out here, use the technology that we've got. And I don't know if I even mentioned it live. I know I've talked to some of the people off air about this, but I maybe recently had a opportunity to experience a teleconference at a pretty big level, and I haven't done that in a long time, since I was at AOL, really. And the technology that they were using is a really big entity doing this telemarketing thing with, or not telemarketing, teleconferencing thing with another pretty big entity, and the technology was weak compared to what we've got going on here. So I really like the idea that, you know, I want to use this as much as possible while we still have it. You never know when, you know, Google decides this isn't profitable or useful for them, and they turn it off. But till then, or I guess even probably more imminently, we see some technology like this come around from a gun-friendly platform like GunTube.org or GunStreamer, then you know, that's what it's all about, is having the people that are watching and participating interact with us, and not just us disseminating information out there. It's all about getting active. This internet isn't just a medium to listen to stuff, right? Everybody's about a whole keyboard in front of you and all them little buttons you can wiggle on your phone all give input back to the machine. It's like we all have the Nielsen box, if you remember that. And if you don't do anything, it just records what you're doing, because it's recording what you're doing. There ain't nothing free. We all know that. So it's recording everything you're doing. But when you interact with it, when you influence, you participate, and you start to guide the future. So be part of that future. Don't just watch it all happen in front of you in fancy, new, colorful ways. Poke around with your thumb and influence how it comes out. And appreciate it. So, Clover, what do you got next? Your formatted Friday night show starts tomorrow?
Yeah, come 6 o'clock in the morning. That will start rolling, or 6 o'clock my time, anyway. That'll start rolling out. So it just depends on what platform you follow on and all that good stuff. But it should, by early evening, should be across all of them. So that's the first episode of the produced version of Firearm Friday. And I already have 2 more episodes already in the books, on the schedule, ready to go. So we're rolling with that now, finally. Thank God.
This is the produced version of the Free Firearm Friday?
There you go.
Oh.
No, but there is something that's potentially coming down the pipe as far as Free Firearm. I can't give any details away because we haven't hammered everything out on it yet. But yeah, there is something maybe on the horizon, maybe before Christmas, maybe. Could I say maybe even more? One more time, maybe. So yeah, you just gotta follow and pay attention.
I've got like at least 3 guns I can think of off the top of my head, maybe even 4 more as I think of them, that I want to give away. So I'm trying to figure out ways to do it that don't get me like in trouble or lose money, because I can't afford to lose money.
Well, the facilitation of it is one way, is the thing that is this last hurdle that I'm trying to get hammered down. There's some software, some sites, and some things that are great at handling the facilitation, as far as making sure people go and like and subscribe and sign up for a newsletter and that sort of stuff, and follow you and whatever your criteria is. It's great for tracking that, and then it's super great when you're able to track that, to be able to draw a random winner and everything from there. But it costs money. So it's about $50 a month, best I can figure, which is insane when you're giving stuff away to have to pay $50 a month to give it away. But I think I may be able to get that sponsored in some part. So I kind of run out of days in the week this week. So early next week anyway, I'm really going to have to get on that and try to get that done.
Dead Horse, what do you got going on? How's that room going?
How's what?
How is your room going? Every time I see it.
I've had to take a break from that because, the holidays and stuff. So it's warm. There's walls up and everything. It's insulated. It's warm. So it's a good place to work in. But Saturday, I probably have an AR build on gun channels I'll be doing. 7.62 by 39.
Oh, okay.
That'll probably just go on, it'll probably just be an open lobby for everyone to join while I build it, and just go on all day Saturday.
Okay, so just after Travis or something.
Yeah.
Cool. Patriot, you got anything coming up? You sitting in on any chats?
I try to jump on as many as I can. With the school hours of daughter being in school and stuff. Some of the late ones are a little difficult now, but I sit in on Rick's Wednesday and Saturday. As many as I can of Ghosts on Tuesday. And here, of course, once in a while I'll hop on to Sarge's, but I'm even known to jump on Midnight Range TMs on Sunday night. So yeah.
I figured that was like an obligation or like a penalty or some sort of like follow through.
It's charity, kind of. No.
Yep.
I gotta help them out because if otherwise I had a question tonight about making rice noodles and I don't know. I kind of dropped the ball. So.
You shake my little cup and be like, please, can I have some more viewers, please?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to close up that blind challenge, and thank you for setting Matt and Yankee straight on the chat. That was pretty nice. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of people probably ask them all kinds of Yahoo crap, so they were probably about to blow it off. I hope I got Yankee. I got through to Yankee. That was worth doing.
Yeah, I appreciate it because I spent 4 hours on one of Matt's chats. Every other comment was just subliminal messages about Robotech and doing a blind challenge, and didn't help. So
did you throw the super chat up today?
I threw one up today, and over the last week I think I've thrown up 3, 2 on Yankee and 1 on Matt.
Well, today Yankees, he gets 500, 800, maybe even 1,000 people, depending on if something's going on in his live chats, and he takes the people that throw money at him through YouTube, which is crazy because YouTube takes like a third of it, 30-something percent. Anyway, people throw money at him on YouTube, and he takes that and he devotes it to something, right? So now it's buying holiday Christmas presents for kids that are foster kids, and he said with not maybe an emphasis, but definitely to include older kids, teenagers. So that's pretty cool. Yankee Dick or whatever, but he's also pretty cool, and he's going to make a bunch of money, and he's also an idiot. So he'll take whatever the amount of money that actually comes in on super chats. Like one time he collected a bunch of money, $700, threw that at gun channels, right? And he gave me $700. He didn't give me the $700 minus the 34%. So he's going to take whatever the people throw at him with super chat and give that to kids, plus more, But anyway, that's Yankee is doing some stuff over there. He's pretty cool. All right. So Seven Wonders was saying we'll be able to see the comments when you watch the replay of this on YouTube. Yes, because YouTube, has their own platform and they're going to do that. However, I have it set up. I have this channel, Daily Gun Show on YouTube, set up with Gunstreamer.com. Much better platform that doesn't hate guns. It doesn't hate our community. It doesn't hate our culture. It doesn't hate our property. And it doesn't hate you. Every time I post something on stupid YouTube, it'll automatically go over to Gunstreamer for me. And then it's available over there. Now, because the YouTube isn't throwing that part of the the guts over to them. They're just getting the video. You won't be able to see the chat over there because YouTube doesn't bother throwing the chat up as a overlay. That'd be kind of cool. But on the other hand, people would probably bitch if it was an overlay because then it would be covering up their makeup or clothes or whatever how they were doing in their live chat, right? But anyway, you're only going to be able to see the text chat on replay on YouTube platform. Then I was going to go over here and do a gun of the day. We haven't done a gun of the day in a while, but we like to get into the gun channel side, right? Gun Channels is a community we built 5 years ago, and it's gunchannels.com. There's a channel over there called Daily Gun Show, and we simulcast the show over there. So you don't even have to be on YouTube. You could just be watching it over here on Gun Channels. And there's a chat down here on the bottom right, and Pants down here, I think, said gun of the day, soup can Uzi. So let's talk about the soup can Uzi. So I don't know if any of you are around whenever I posted this. I don't even remember when I posted the video anymore. Does anybody happen to remember when that happened?
I don't know anything about a soup can Uzi. I don't know what that
I
is.
really can't. I can't even go get it because it's on my gun website's channel. So
You posted it like a month ago on Gunstreamer, I think.
oh, it's on Gunstreamer? Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I posted it originally like a long time ago. Sometimes when I post stuff on Gunstreamer, I'll post the date of it originally. So I'm over on Gunstreamer looking for it right now. But basically, I know a guy who is a cool dude, and he's an importer of all kinds of cool stuff. And when he's got a parts kit that's rare, he's got a lot of rare, unique parts kits.
I don't plan on turning it into a fire.
He takes his parts kits and he wraps them up with baling wire or something to like retain the shape and function sometimes of the original gun, just on a bogus chassis or a bogus something, to keep like a piece of angle iron sometimes. In this case, I just took a soup can or can of tomato sauce actually and cut the top and bottom off and sliced it and then kind of bent that piece of metal that I had into a channel and then used that to wire up all my parts from my Uzi parts kit. And like I said, this guy, he has all kinds of cool guns all wired up like that, and it's really fun to just play around with them because it lets you, like I say, fiddle with all the little gizmos and parts on these parts kits. So I had this Uzi parts kit that still had the ears, the front and sight post, guards there. Sometimes those are cut off of parts kits, and I can't put the kit together. I just don't have the money to put it together, so I wanted to, have it more than just a bunch of stuff in a drawer. So I wrapped it up with this can and a bunch of, what do you call it? Just wire. It's actually trap wire. It's that green and yellow wire you get from a surplus store for making booby traps. So it's just a bunch of that all wired up. And then I stuck a magnet underneath it here inside of the soup can so that when the stock comes up, the magnet hits it and the stock stays into position without having to have any of the guts in there that would normally hold it into position. You can still jam the magazine into it. You can still flip it from safe and fire and in full auto. And you can still charge the charging handle all you want. It's on a spring, so it'll go back and forth all you want. You can pull the trigger, and for whatever reason, when the trigger goes up, it hits the bottom of the soup can, so it goes click, click, click. That was just happened. I didn't intend for that to happen. Otherwise, it's pretty cool. And I painted it kind of a brown color, some camouflage brown that I had, and for whatever reason, it just looks correct. So, if I had that sitting there, most people would probably think it's just a Uzi. But it's just a lot of fun. So if you have a parts kit and you haven't put it together yet, consider just mocking up a chassis or trunnions, whatever you happen to need for whatever kind of parts kit you got, and then you can at least play with it, put it on a wall. I'm bringing that up because it's a Small Arms Review show this weekend, so a lot of people are going to be heading to Phoenix. Pretty much the biggest gun show this side of the Wanamaker show. And a whole building of it is going to be stuff like Uzi parts kits. And you can still put a bayonet on here too if I had one.
Well, heck yeah, that's the kind of Uzi I'd want right there.
So I posted a video and then fast forwarded it. It was a while ago because I was still carrying around that blue Manix 2 over there. But yeah, anyway, that's that video. So I posted a picture of it on Instagram today. What I'll do, and I don't know if you guys use this strategy, when you go to Instagram, you got those 4 little buttons down here. The next one over from the side is, I don't know what it is, a heart or something, a mushroom, and you click on that, and it shows you like who's been commenting or liking your stuff. And I think it shows you the last 100 of them. So when I scroll through there, almost always it's whatever your last stuff was, right? Like your last picture or two, depending how much you've been posting. And then in the middle of those 100, there'll be somebody who looked at something that's like 6 years old. And then that's what I'll repost, just because that's like a way to get something dug up out of the back of my inventory of pictures over there. And that's where this one came from. Somebody looked at one picture from like a long time ago, and I just reposted it and made it black and white, so it looks all kind of shitty or artsy, however you want to look at it. Anyway, if you got a parts kit laying around, I highly encourage you to turn it into a soup can version of the gun. I know we were going to end, but since we're screen sharing, I'm also going to do a member of the day. We haven't done one of those in a while, or at least not today. And today it's going to be James Kalita, who is not yet a member of Gun Channels, but I'm going to bug him. I'm his first Patreon, so you can click on his Patreon. You can see I'm giving him $1, and you could be his second dollar. I highly encourage you to check out his podcast. It's called OutOfOrderJamesKalita.com. So real original. The name of his podcast, and then his name.com. I'll put a link to it out here. And he does a half-an-hour podcast. I don't know how often. I've just been kind of digging through them here. Do I know from here? Will this tell me? No. So I just have a couple of specific ones open here. But anyway, I don't know how often he does these podcasts, but they are half an hour long. And he just says, this is the Out of Order podcast, and I'm talking to Jay Factor. He's going to talk about New Jersey gun laws. Here you go. And then he lets Jay Factor talk for half an hour. And then at the end he goes, thanks. This was the podcast. Oh, and then the only thing he does ask the guy is he'll ask, what book do you like? And then most of the time when you listen to the shows, whatever the books the person recommended, he'll have a link to those books. So you can listen to a half an hour of the person without almost any influence at all from anything. No commercial breaks, nothing. And it's all 2A people. So let me try to figure out how to get to. You don't even have to do anything. Just go to his homepage. That's all he's got there. It's just literally just a link. So Kevin Dixie was his last one the other day. It looks like the 19th. So what is that? About every couple of weeks he does one? No, it's every week. He does one every week, it looks like. Lots and lots of 2A people in here. Well, just a great interview. Like I say, an interview show. So I've been digging through these. A half an hour goes by really fast, and I can't recommend it enough. So I'll throw the link out there. And I don't know. I already asked Clover, but by any chance, have you guys heard of James Kalita?
No.
Nope, just the message that you subscribed to, or signed
That
up
I
on.
did the Patreon. That probably went out as a thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I think whenever I tip $1 or whatever, and then I think it tells you, like, do you want to tell everybody? I said, yeah, sure. All right, so
I
that's
didn't know that feature was there.
it. Just happens when you first do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send it out on Twitter or whatever
You
too.
could test it though. You could go to my Patreon. Gun websites on Patreon. Turn off whatever Patreon you're using now. Switch it to $100 a month, and then hit submit, and then you'll probably get that little button there. And you can just leave it like that.
Interesting.
It's a good way to test it.
Yeah.
That's a round number as a metric.
It's all based on tens.
One way that I've heard, just through some therapists I was talking to, some psychoanalysts I was talking to if you got issues with metric, is to send people like a metric amount of Patreon support. So $100 is a good level if you're really into the metric.
Mm-hmm. That's why we don't use metric here.
How I'm saying if someone likes metric though, then they're more than welcome to do the 100 level Patreon support for everyone. It's nice and easy to keep track of.
It's like using 9mm.
That's a bad
Yeah.
number. Odd number. What do you have? 18? 27?
I got something to mention that I found out today about Instagram. They have a new feature. It was supposed to roll out today, but I don't know if it's across the board or not. But when you're uploading your photos and you're doing your little comments and location and all that stuff, if you hit the advanced button, they allow you to edit your alt text, which basically is a quick description of your image, so that the blind guys that use screen readers, it'll actually, when you focus on the photo, it'll tell you what whoever took the picture, you could say it's a soup can Uzi. And then when the blind guy looks at it, it actually shows up. Now, it came out like 2 days ago. I came across a couple pictures that had the alt text coming through them, and then they disappeared. And then today, somebody I subscribed to on YouTube, which he's a blind guy. He gives out good information, but I don't really pay much attention to him. Anyways, he had a video today about it. And so if you do the Instagrams, check that out. It'll take a couple more seconds maybe, because they do, since they're tied in with Facebook, I guess. Facebook has a kind of an old way of doing it where it'll say, person outside, in nature, dog or something, kind of give you a basic thing. Well, this has that same stuff a little bit more advanced, and it also allows you to type out stuff. So if you want to throw in a little description in there, and it doesn't show up, I don't think, to anybody else unless you're using a screen reader somehow. So that's it.
That's interesting, especially if you're embedding your Instagram posts on websites or someplace like on a blog or something, then that would be additional alt text and reader capabilities.
That's using those spiders.
Creepy crawlers.
And that's probably a good point. It's not Monday, but usually on Mondays when we talk about nerd stuff, but since we just did the two-way workshop, I guess, remember to go in and update your Instagram. It doesn't, I don't leave my stuff on auto update. Hopefully you don't leave your stuff on auto update. Tell your apps to be updated when you tell them to, but then remember to update your apps, because like when you're talking about this, if you wouldn't have mentioned something, I probably would have no interest in updating my app, so I might not have known about it, until the next time somebody started talking about it, which might not be for a long time, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got busted for music yesterday, and I probably already got busted for music today. So we'll just end it. Again, thanks to Seven Wonders for finding the show and being so active in the chat. All the others for participating as well. We're at 23 people watching. That's pretty good for being in the middle of the night. We're here every midnight, and we're here to talk about guns, to be on topic that we decide, not reactionary to whatever the agenda-based media is deciding that what we talk about. We talked earlier today in, whose chat was it? Earlier today, I've been in a lot of chats, but was it Sarge's chat probably? We were talking about being ambushed and when and how to do like a rally. I think we kind of got sidetracked into talking about a two-way rally. And this is the kind of time now, is the kind of time when we're not at a political situation where coincidentally some atrocity will happen, where a politically motivated murderer will grab something that he knows will make him infamous and get him immediate attention from the media, who wants to persecute any property that they've deemed bad. So right now we're not dealing with any of that. We have a perfect opportunity to work together and to figure out how to pull in the same direction on something. And we got HR 38 out there. We've got other things, and we got Every Second Matters coming up on Sunday. So we'll be back tomorrow at this time. We'll be chatting about Clovers. We'll be judging Clovers produced industry show, and it'll be also our show, our 700th show. So we'll be joining the 700 Club tomorrow.
What was that dude's name?
I don't remember.
700.
It was some kind of religion show, right?
Yeah.
I
it's-
think so. Yeah.
Shoot, not Jimmy Swaggart, was it? Shoot, no.
I feel like at 700, there's no other shows that are going to be more than us. There might be a couple of other like long-running weekly shows that possibly could be up to 700, but I feel like we should own the podcast, the gun podcast realm at this point. Like we should get some sort of special.
You get
level.
the Cal Ripken Iron Man Award for podcasts.
I don't know what that is, but there should be some sort of like boss that comes out and we like defeated them, or like today we defeated them, and like tomorrow we take our little sword or rod with a crystal at the end or something. Anyway, we'll find out what happens tomorrow. Something like the 100,000 button, or 1,000. Oh, I got 100,000 button from YouTube. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the podcast tube gives me.
The pod gods.
Yep. Anyway, thanks everybody for keeping it going, and either financially over at the Gear website store or through Patreon. I guess I should have also mentioned that well, there's still 22 people watching. There's we sent out a bunch of stuff today for our Patreon supporters. We went out and spent $645 or something like that on the tour. That's like $30 here, $50 here at the various gun shops and a couple of surplus stores that we visited on the tour, and about all kinds of patches and stickers and some other things. Sent out a couple of knives today, some of these giant safety pins. I would call them like the safety pins you put on like on a kilt or like on a skirt, right? Like a plaid skirt. I'll have one of them big ass safety pins. It's like that, except it's actually for like a Navy duffel bag. So whatever. Anyway, they're cool. They're these big giant safety pins. So a couple of them went out today. I'm going to kind of ration that stuff since I won't be able to probably go purchase things at gun shops so much anymore. And all kinds of brochures and pamphlets and stuff from the various museums and things headed out, as well as some stickers and patches and stuff. So thanks everybody who allows us to keep our projects online and occasionally keep them on the road. And we're kicking butt. We've had a bunch of big projects that kind of passed, doing the patches, getting the cards done is a major, like distraction from doing all the other stuff. So looking forward to moving forward. We've got a couple of big ideas for 2018. I keep getting told about other people's big ideas for 2018. It should be pretty fun. So thanks again. And the wind beneath our wings.